whoa, whoa, yeah. Hey. Back in that, yeah. Tell them to watch it. Now I ain't talking my pockets. Just know we ain't running out the way that we stock it. If I got it, you got it. If I call it, she slide and tell her to mop it. Yeah, I got that shit doing. Damn, she took that thing off and bring it around. Going at it till I'm on. Put that 90 in a hole. I'm beating it down. I'm back in that bag again. Whoa.
Back in the bag again.
Ladies and gentlemen, here we are.
I feel like I'm putting together a highlight reel of my like a yoga session.
Yeah.
I happen to follow a lot of yogis on social media.
Namaste over here.
And it's like hip hop song I've never heard of before, beat mixed in with like vanity, and I love it. I'm like, I've never thought to take my camera out and videotape myself while I was doing yoga.
You should.
I'm there for the namaste.
Well, you're pretty stretchy, and I think that the world needs to see that.
Flexi bendy, they do.
Yeah.
Sharing is caring. Between Two Wrenches podcast back, first episode of 2025. Happy belated New Year to everybody.
No pressure.
Made it, yeah. Don't mess it up.
You picked the wrong person for your first podcast then.
We have goals. We did a goal sheet, and we are like 155. We'd like to be at least in the 150s, so keep us in that.
Okay.
We'd like to not slide back down to the 200s.
Perfect.
We have had some changes, though. We've had some additions to
Yes.
Between Two Wrenches. We're now on TikTok.
Yeah.
For now.
For a day.
For another
Just talking
26
about
minutes, we're on TikTok. Instagram.
So if they follow you there, where should they move to?
Yeah, we're on Instagram, and we're also on YouTube. So we have our own YouTube channel for the podcast. So you can follow along there and get the best. You don't have to sit through the whole rigmarole. You can just hone in on the good stuff. Usually get a good 20-second clip out of an hour and a half podcast.
It's going to be great.
Yeah. So follow along at Between Two Wrenches on all of those platforms. But I did hear that they may be extending the TikTok
so what's
deadline
going
by
on?
270 days.
What's going on with that? And then what's lemonade? Limonade?
Lemon.
Limonade.
Lemonade. Lemon 8.
Lemon 8?
Lemon 8.
Well,
It
that's
is
weird.
Another.
I liked mine.
It's like how Meta has Facebook and then Instagram, and they're intertwined with one another. This is, I think, TikTok's version of kind of.
Have you
Pinterest.
seen that?
No, I saw another one that I don't know the name of. I was going to Google to try and find.
Yeah. Lemonade is. I'm not going to say it's all the rage.
No, but
Have you been on it?
No.
It like It like when Threads became a thing, and Instagram was like, "Oh, sign up for Threads."
Is Threads still a thing?
It's there.
Okay.
It's there. Yeah,
It
that's
exists.
fair.
It exists. But they were like, "Oh, you have a Threads account now. You can go and start posting on Threads, or you can automatically post your Instagram on Threads." TikTok has Lemon8, which is a ridiculous name. I don't know who thought
But
of
if
that.
it's still is it still the same owners as TikTok?
Yeah, like we have a page that we've never set up with a bunch of followers.
A bunch of people follow
But then
us.
if TikTok goes down, won't that also go down?
I don't know. It
You're
feels, the
asking a lot of
timing feels
questions.
interesting, where you would set up a subsequent platform from the same company and send all your users there.
Yes.
When you're about to get
axed.
Well, I'm glad I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
You're not a
Right.
big TikToker
I don't have TikTok.
at all?
Not at all. Do you know why though? Because
amazing.
it was like demotivating for me. Because I would
I
like
hear you.
sit down and then all of a sudden like start scrolling, and I was like, before I knew it, was an hour wasted.
You mean time
and
travel?
So yes,
Time travel.
time
What
warp,
happened
yes.
to the last hour of my
I know,
life?
and I was like, but there's so many other things I can get done.
I know.
So then I would just.
It's a tough balance.
However, it did get me through my plank challenge in 2020. So during like COVID, I love challenges. I always set challenges like 30 days, we're going to do this. And so then I made a plank challenge for my husband and I. And then of course, like any friends that wanted to join, I harassed it and basically said you have to.
Right.
And so then it was like you start with a plank and you increase it by I think 30 seconds or 15 seconds every day. So by the time we got to the end of the month, and someone will do my math and say, you're wrong, it wasn't 15 seconds, but whatever. It was like a 12-minute plank at the end of the month.
How long?
12 minutes. And just watching
smokes.
TikTok videos.
How many friends did you lose?
At the end of
that.
it, I just ended
You're
with
like-
my bestie and my husband.
Okay.
So, but he doesn't really count because like he can't quit, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
there'd be
We're
like
doing
harsh
this.
judgment if he
Right.
did.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Nobody,
yeah.
nobody wants that. Are you
Yeah.
guys fighting?
Because
11
finished a
minute
plank
plank.
challenge.
Loser.
Right. Yeah. I missed
Yeah.
one day. I missed one day.
There's
Why are
no
you
off
sleeping in your
days.
garage, bud?
It's really
Didn't
comfortable
get that
here.
next interval.
Also, Becca Rouse is here.
Yeah, we
Becca.
should probably do
Hi,
it.
that's
Introduce.
me.
We just kind of jumped right in, which is
It reminded me of when you're watching like a TikTok or not a TikTok,
it's in
like
right now.
a TV show or like a Netflix, and then all of a sudden, like it's like 5 minutes in, and then they like start running the credits, and they like oh, welcome to this show. And you're like, oh,
You're like, I'm already all
already
in.
there.
Yeah, right.
Just
Yeah,
tell
yeah.
me later.
Do I need to know this
Yeah.
pertinent information?
Yeah.
Thanks, Tyler Sheridan. Appreciate that.
But yes, Becca.
Becca,
Yes. Yes,
laundry
Becca.
list of accolades, things that you do, master of all.
I do a lot of things.
You do a lot of
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I expert all of them. Expert, that's not, well, whatever.
You are an expert.
Yes, in areas. I always say I'm like, I know enough to be dangerous, but maybe not enough to like fully execute or help. So like,
I
I
relate
can
to
get you
that.
started in lots of areas.
Oh yeah.
Jack
Or
of
like
all
all
trades.
random facts. I'm like, oh yeah. And like, I actually don't remember the rest of the article, but I do remember that there was
This
this one point
sentence.
in it. So Google that. That'll get you somewhere.
Right.
Jack
Yep.
of all trades,
Yeah.
master of none. Is that?
But you're
Thank
also
you. That is
Jack
what
of
I
all
was
trades.
trying to say, but it just was not connected.
Yeah, but there's more to that quote. Because that makes it sound almost a little bit like negative, right? Jack of all trades, master of none. But TQ, will you find the rest of that quote?
Yeah.
Uh,
Young,
but
young
because
TQ.
I'd like to say I'm similar and I'm not detail oriented, but I'm the same thing. I'll start things, but I struggle to finish. I have great teams to help me finish the things, but you are extremely detail oriented. Where you have that. We share that kind of creative, but then you have this like spreadsheet side to you.
Okay, we should say when I'm detail oriented with numbers, not necessarily like words, right? Like I have had those employees that have given me emails that are paragraphs long, and I'm like, delete or like reply. Could you please tell me what you need? Because I'm not going to read all of it. But if it's a spreadsheet that's like 100 pages long, you bet, right?
Right.
And I'm like, yes, let me get in there and let me make some calculations and like.
There needs to be like a chat GPT add-on to your email where you can like just say, read this and give me the important
Right, give me
parts."
the bullet
You
points.
can
Get a
just
lot
probably
of those,
copy
too.
and paste right into it.
You could.
And it'll
I'm
tell
just-
you.
I'm
Well,
Yeah.
now there's the
Streamline
Apple
the process.
Intelligence.
Yeah.
I just updated mine yesterday. I don't really know.
What is that?
on
It's
your
phone?
It's like
Apple's
super
AI.
AI, which I mean, if Apple's going to come out with something like that, it's
Yeah.
probably going to be pretty spot on.
Right.
I am going to see if I still need my Chat GTP subscription, or if
I like Copilot. That's been my go-to.
okay.
Well, it is ChatGPT.
Copilot.
The Apple AI, it is ChatGPT.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So then maybe I don't need.
So
that.
ChatGPT
Maybe I don't
is
need to
the
pay that
master.
$90 a year or whatever.
Yeah.
Master of the universe is chat GPT. Everybody else just buys into it.
That
No,
quote, by the
I-
way-
Open AI.
sorry.
Oh, you found the quote?
I did. A jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one.
See, because we know a little bit of everything.
Exactly.
Right? So like if we're stuck, we know we can start somewhere. So I like to think like because we're solution oriented.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
because we dabble in all the things, we know that there has to be a solution. We just haven't figured it out yet.
Exactly.
And so it's actually great.
Yep, absolutely. It
Was
just
that Confucius, by the way? Whose quote is that?
Let me look.
fair. No, I
Confucius
just
said-
it's, and I think that, but with a mindset like that, there really isn't anything that you can't
No.
overcome.
But we just sometimes I become like overwhelmed by things because it just seems like a big daunting task and I don't know where to start. And so then it's like, okay, I just have to like
Stare at the wall.
scale it down. Yeah. Like what's the one thing I can do today?
I know one thing that has helped me in those moments, and that's your yoga class.
Yes.
We're gonna throw that in there, too.
Mindfulness.
Yeah.
I joke around a little bit. So I have ADHD and like all over the place.
Yeah.
But
This is going to be a great show.
And we're
and I didn't
extremely
take any meds this
caffeinated.
morning. So yeah, no, we're
coffee
tired. This is my second cup of coffee. Get
Well,
ready,
that's not
buckle
coffee.
up, kids.
I think that's 3 shots of espresso in there.
Perfect, even better. All right. So where was I? Yoga.
Yeah, you joke around about mindfulness.
Pre-post. So I say like the people who knew me pre-yoga probably don't really like identify and understand the people who know me post-yoga. right? Because yoga has been the thing that has helped me to come from a place of responding, a place from like a day at a time, a breath at a time. Like, okay, we can overcome this. We can do this. I don't need to react and freak out, right? I don't need to like, have I communicated my expectations to them, or is it just this idea in my head that I'm like perseverating on?
Yep.
And so I do feel like that and that practice and teaching it has made a huge difference in my life from like the mental state.
I could not agree with you more. Not only yoga, obviously, if you've listened to the podcast, I talk about jujitsu quite a bit.
Yeah.
But uncomfortable situations that you have to breathe through that you can't necessarily control, and you just have to sink into the moment. And use the I think in the last year, the two favorite words that I've realized about myself is responding and reacting. And I'm working hard to be more aware to respond
Yes.
rather than react.
Yes.
Because like I think it sounds awfully similar. The ADD, and it's like you jump onto an idea or an event, or it's almost like my life. I was like trained to just like go whatever happens,
Yeah.
and whether it's an emotion,
Yep.
And so
All
now
in.
it's like breathe. How do I really want to make this come out? Because people get awfully sick of you saying like, "Oh, that's just me. Sorry."
Yes. Yes.
Pretty soon they're like, that only goes so far. And when you're an adult, like people are just like, you can be as crazy and goofy as you want, and that's fun at arm's length. But like,
I feel like you get till you're 30. Like
yeah,
that's-
right.
That's an option till like 30s, early 30s.
Like
and
filter
they're like,
yourself. I had to figure out how to like filter myself a
Exactly.
little bit, because like it can be fun, but then it can also be like just overwhelming, or the interrupting, or the like that impulsivity can, like, people can't keep up with it. And so I have to be like, okay, let's slow down. And I think work also taught me that too. Managing employees, it was like when I would react, it just made it difficult for everyone. And then I'd react to something, but I didn't actually have all the information. And
Right.
so I use this thought triangle, and it's like the first thing I ask myself when I like find, because you can tell when you're like, right, getting like pissy and like mad, like a bull in
like
a
10
china
minutes
shop.
ago?
Yeah, exactly.
When I was like, hey,
Yes.
7.5 minutes ago. Not that I'm counting.
So then it's like, I always have to ask myself, like, is this true?
right.
Like, how do I know this to be true? Like, do I even have enough information to even like start to form a feeling, or like, and then that feeling will lead to that action. But like, if I can't even get there, that I have this feeling, then I need to like back up the bus
Right.
a little bit, right? Get all the facts and then decide. And then I have to say, okay, it's making me mad, but is it really making me mad? Or am I just jealous? Or like, am I angry? Am I hurt?
Yeah,
And
right.
then,
What's the root of it?
Yes. And then I'll be like, oh, okay, really, I'm just a jealous asshole. So I guess I won't say anything to anyone about this. So.
Sounds like this is a me
Yeah, well,
problem.
Yeah, I guess I'll just
That's
like,
a very interesting triangle. I'm an asshole. That's what I got out of that. So, that back
Yeah,
to later.
I like
we
to
do
bypass that.
self-sabotage ourselves.
I like to bypass that and just go, well, 90% of the time, that's just me.
Yeah.
And so,
And it's our thoughts. Like our
Right.
thoughts they just create this story from this like narrative that we've told ourselves. And then like whatever story we create, we start to pull the evidence that matches that.
Yep.
Instead of looking objectively at like what the situation is. And that's when I feel like responding is when I'm like looking at it from an objective lens.
Yeah.
And there's that quote, and you probably heard me say it in yoga class, that when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Yep.
And I always have to tell myself that, especially when I'm like really fired up about something. Like, how can I shift this? Right.
reframing.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's wild how like all those different ways to say the exact same thing, but it's how it clicks with certain people. Like you found it in
Yes.
yoga and work, and honestly, my 20s were a drunken blur, building businesses and like just having fun and whatever. And then my 30s, like there was lots of signs to like slow down and really like hone in, but I didn't really have. If I were an employee, I would have been fired. I wouldn't have a job. And as an owner of the business, they're like, I don't run it, as a dictatorship, but I also didn't really have anybody holding me accountable. And so I didn't really have anything to to give that space or that buffer, other than myself. And I didn't always, so I learned a lot of those things through my family, my relationship. And then, honestly, like finding some sort of sport that allowed for that mindfulness. Cause even I remember in my 30s, like doing yoga, and it was like, I mean, yeah, like I could see where that's good, but like, it's the last 3 years has been.
I just this morning did an intention that the body needs movement, but the mind needs stillness.
Yeah.
And so I think you need both, like, right?
Absolutely.
I think you need that physical assertion. So whether it's a sport, walk, whatever you do, I think you have to like physically wear out the body so that you can be like mentally prepared for the stillness. So people in yoga typically initially don't love Shavasana, right? The last pose at the end.
Are
Corpse
you
pose.
kidding?
Corpse
Now
pose, baby,
you
for
appreciate it,
days.
Yeah.
right? But a lot of people, they come in and you just watch their eyes. They're like, are we done checking their watch? Some people will text during it. And I was like, this is the most
They're
important
not
pose
texting.
of
They're
the
making
practice.
they're making sure they got that good angle.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, is my button
Did
here?
this
Can
video
I
turn
get
out okay? I'm going to take
little more
another
booty?
class to like get it a reshoot. And so like, but that is right. That is where like you seal everything in, where you take the moment to respond to all the things that you just did in that practice.
Right.
I think everything. It's like it allows. And that's why I like doing it in the morning. It kind of sets your day up for intention. Like I also love going out and getting a good workout in. But what I've learned over the years and like really implementing in 2025, as I'm trying to just do the one day at a time thing, one foot in front of the other, is if the balance that you need for all, like this morning, I knew I couldn't do a yoga class, but I knew that if I
Yeah, I know you weren't there.
I know.
I did. I noticed. You
Apparently,
also weren't there.
that whole judgment-free zone, that
Yeah.
shit's out the window.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
we
only in
can't
the
judge her.
studio.
Fair.
Yeah,
It's a one-
I can
it's a
judge
one-way
outside
street.
the studio.
Yeah, yeah,
but I
right.
have compassion for you that you couldn't
Yeah.
make it.
I think, and then some in there.
What was the triangle? I'm an
Where
asshole.
do we end up?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Oh yeah,
got it.
shit.
Oh, yeah, that's
Not
right.
reacting. Damn it.
But
Namaste. No.
what I don't know. I forget the guy's name. I learned it. We went to a jiu-jitsu retreat down in Panama, and we did breath work, which I mean is essentially meditation. Is essentially some
Wim Hof?
No, it was Chuck.
That was the guy going into the cold water.
Yeah, he goes.
Yeah.
Like
he does
breathe
breathing
through the cold
exercises
water.
and
This guy did. He's
Which
like
I have a funny
studied
story
under him.
about that after
Well,
this.
just that.
Yes.
It was just another guy like him. He's pretty famous on there, but like, so it was like 30 minutes, and I was like, well, I know that I need to do something this week to balance out. Like yesterday was a killer workout. You know, I've been training a lot, so it was just sit in the sauna and do 30 minutes of breath work, trying to like also not die from the intense heat of the sauna.
and not think about it at the same
Right,
time.
right,
Don't think about that.
Right? Yeah.
Don't think about that.
But I don't know. It's little things like that, and I think that as we get older, when we're younger, we're like, whatever, we could push through or whatever. But it just makes everything better.
And I think like too, it's a practice. It's not like
Yeah.
I'm gonna do this in a day. It's not like I'm gonna. And I always share this story when I share about it being a practice. So I have two kids, and they'll be 10 and 13 this year. And last year we decided to take a trip to Montana to go skiing. And like this is just kind of how things fall sometimes for us, not always, but it happened to be the coldest weekend I think ever. It was like negative 30 some degrees. So like among other things, my son's sticking his tongue to a metal pole because he saw it in a movie and wanted to know if it actually would hurt. It hurts, and your tongue does bleed, and then you're stuck with like snow on it forever. So that
Raise your
was
hand if you saw a Christmas Story as a child, and you're
and
like,
then, like,
I think this
reenact
is
it.
bullshit.
Yes.
It's,
So that
it's
was
real.
him. I have pictures, all
That's
the
great.
things. So this is at the end of that day. So that was the last thing that happened that day. But earlier in the day, my daughter and husband were skiing, negative 15 degree weather, but I was like bound and determined to get our son like up the mountain to see this restaurant. And so I was like, yeah, like we'll just get these tickets. And we rode up the chairlift. Okay. And this chairlift has a big blue shield that comes over it, and it has a bar that comes down, all to keep you safe as you go up, because you have to ride it down.
There's a bar?
Yes.
That's what I did.
I know, wrong kind of bar.
I know.
So at
That's
the
my
top,
kind of
at the
safety.
top, you get up
All
there,
right.
and then you're
to
good.
the top.
Yes. So we get up to this bar at the top. Like, life is good. We check it out. It really was not that great. I don't know why I thought I needed to go up in like negative 15 degree weather to see this, but whatever. We did it. We lived.
Says the lady with a sweater and a blanket.
Yes. I also have a little thing that I live by that's like, if you get excited about it in the first 30 seconds, you should explore it. So I was excited. So
Yep.
we explored.
I like that.
So my husband's down skiing around somewhere, I don't know, and I have both kids. And we hop back on the chairlift to go down. And what should happen is the bar should come down. And then this big, huge blue bubble, because it is like a 10-chair lift, should come and protect everybody. Neither the bubble nor the bar came down, and we are going down a Montana mountain, the three of us in the chairlift. To which point I start screaming like, help, somebody help us. Nobody helped us. The chairlift person's like, meh. and we start going down. So here
You'll be all
I
right.
am, like,
You know what they won't do? Jump out.
I
Hold
thought
it.
about that.
Sit
I was
back.
like, could we get? Anyway, so my daughter, my son, me, I like throw a leg over my son. I'm holding on, pushing our bodies into the chairlift, and I'm telling them like, push back, nobody move, like reacting. Years of yoga. What does my daughter, who is at that time 11, say? Do you think we should try square breathing?
Huh.
As we're plummeting to our death, that'd probably be a good idea. Sure. So at which point,
Weird. Everything's okay.
this is great. We'll be fine. Like here, I'm supposed to be the strong one, and then the 11-year-old like rises to the
I got a
occasion.
couple of those at home too.
Yeah. So we do. We like breathe the entire way down. We make it down. I get a very strong drink. They get some hot chocolates and whatever else they want. And I was like, never again. And then my son sticks his tongue to the pole. Anyway, my point of all of that is
I'm ready.
that she didn't just think about that day when she was facing death, right? Like
Right.
she had practiced square breathing lots of times, tons of times in situations that weren't that dire. She did it in the Galapagos when we were surrounded by lizards and she was like, didn't know how to like get down the path. But like that is a practice and she's built it up in her. And that now becomes her response to those like really tough situations. And it is amazing how she can just like navigate through them.
I wonder who
that-
passed that information down to their child. I just
Right.
Did you find
kids,
that on the
that's great.
Instagram,
They
or was that maybe
Yes.
mother?
That would be
puts
me.
this down in there
all the time.
But that's
Just breathe.
it's interesting because that's the difference between that you've taught that in yoga classes. You've obviously taught that to your children. But as adults, because you have all the bullshit going on in your brain and all of your reactions, and you've watched too many movies about apparently ski accidents in
Yeah.
Montana where you fall off a chairlift, your reaction was,
yeah, I
We're gonna die.
we're going to die. And she's like, why don't I just resort to the thing
How
that you
soft
taught
is the
me,
snow?
Well,
taught me to do during this moment,
Right. Correct.
Mom?
Yeah.
I think it's pretty cool though because like
Do as I say, not as I do.
well that's
that's
where
what it
that
is.
one came from.
Yeah.
And also, I don't think Christmas Story was where the tongue sticking to the pole came from because I feel like they put that in the movie because
Because-
people have been
Oh,
doing
I'm
that since
sure.
the dawn of time.
Which came first, chicken or egg?
Right?
Was it
yeah.
double-
iron.
triple dog?
As soon as
Yeah.
iron was
I
a thing.
triple dog dare you.
Yeah.
Okay. Whoa.
Yeah.
If you triple dog dare me, I will
Then
do
the
that.
neighbor kid just did it yesterday, and my son came and was like, Isley stuck his tongue to the pole. And I was like, did you tell him that wasn't a good idea? No. You just watched him. Yeah. What happened? It bled. Well, nice friend
Lord of
you
the-
are.
Lord of the
but-
Flies.
Yeah.
Survival of the fittest here.
Yep. They've
It's
done
like,
studies on
You
this.
can just learn on your own.
Yep.
I'll
Yeah.
just watch
That's how
you.
it works.
Yeah.
Well, you teach kids. It's the stove is hot. You know, put your hand on a hot stove, or you don't do that again because you learn
Yeah.
it. But when somebody else does it, you just sit back and go,
We
They'll
were watching
learn. Yeah.
The Secret Life of Pets too, just the other weekend with my kids, and this came off the heels of we shared some heavy information with our son, and we and then we wanted to support him through it, and he looked at us and he said, "Okay, what do you need from me in this situation?"
Aww.
And it's like
He probably hears that all the time.
and I think that's really it's the same kind of thing. Like I'm like trying to figure out my life, and he's like same. It's like the square
Yeah.
breathing,
Yeah.
but it's because society, life, the world, like they have this time when we get to give them the tools, and then as parents, like if we can do a good job of continuing as their situations make us want to react more. To just remember those things, I feel like that's how we set them up, and we can break some of the generational curses that
we
come
have
down
been
to
a part
them.
of. Are we going to start a parenting podcast?
I mean, I kind of should. That's what's so great about
sweet.
this.
let me start, please. I mean, also, as soon as you get off of your,
We have all
as soon as
the
you guys get
ages.
off of your no drink whatever lifestyle, then we'll start the parenting podcast because we are not doing this shit drinking
Sober?
coffee.
Okay,
we're
fine.
going to be like, have
Between
you seen
two
the
bourbons.
Have you seen the bourbon selection
Yes.
behind me? It's not just cleverly placed back there. No.
Well, one last thing on that kind of whole parenting note was, and I think that like we kind of get away from this a little bit, but we were watching Secret Life of Pets too, and it was like to set the scene, like the pet. If you haven't seen it, it's you're listening to pets talk like humans, right? And they go to the farm in the second,
Oh, yeah. I was trying to remember what the plot of that one was. Got
and
it.
so they're
the old dog.
the old dog Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
And who's like a farm dog. He's the one, a sheep herder and all that. They're having a conversation because somebody, I forget who they were like trying to look after, but the one dog was trying to look after somebody or something else. And they're like, oh my gosh, we don't know where he is. And the Harrison Ford character's like, I think it's Rooster is his name. I can't remember. But
Check it, TQ.
yeah.
With Harrison
Secret Life
Ford,
of Pets 2, Harrison Ford's.
one of his critically acclaimed roles.
But it was
He's
so
most
him.
well known
Yeah.
for
It was so
Rooster.
him in it. And the kids or the other dog's like, well, yeah, we don't know where he went. Like, he's got ADD. And so Rooster's like, okay. And he's like, well, he might like run around. He's like, well, it sounds like he'll get tired then. And he's like, well, but what if he like climbs a tree? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, well, what if he falls out of a tree? And he's like, he probably wouldn't do it again then. And then it's like, and then all of a sudden he stops him and he's like, we're going far down this hypothetical path. He's like, but at the same time, sometimes a kid's got to learn his own lessons. He's got to touch the stove no matter how many times you tell him how hot it is. He's like, how many times I chewed an extension cord? Once. He said that shocked me into next week, or something like that. But it's just, it's something that I think as parents we forget about because it's like, well, if they get hurt under our watch, we've now failed.
Right.
But also, it's like
You have to shift the lens. It's not
Exactly,
about that. It's how
reframe.
can we help them to learn and grow.
Exactly.
Like, and I think that's that idea of like helicopter parenting, which I am not, by the way. I probably am the opposite.
Clearly,
I
ask
don't
your
know-
kid's
yeah.
tongue how it's doing.
Clearly, yeah, I don't really typically know. Well, we have a great neighborhood, so the kids can just like run freely.
Yeah.
So it's like when I was little, it's just like they leave in the morning and then you hope to see them sometime in the middle of the day and then they're back in the evening.
or at least
But
somebody in the neighborhood would feed
yes, like there's enough
You hope to
people
see him
that
again. You
know-
hope they don't just keep fucking running.
Yeah,
That's really what
true.
you hope.
But it's that idea, I think, of like letting them make their own mistakes, right? How
Yeah.
did I learn by making my own mistakes? And like my goal is to hopefully help you not make a fatal mistake, right? That you
Right.
can't come back from. But like you do need room to grow and to be. And like my job is just to help you buffer that. And so when you come to me with problems, like I used to want to solve all of them, right? Again, post yoga, like I wanted to fix everything. I knew everything, control freak. Now it's like, well, we'll actually just let this evolve into what it needs to be. And my grandpa, I love him. He passed away several years ago, but he always said that everything works out in the end. And if it hasn't worked out, then it's just not the end. And I just have to remind myself of that. It's like, well, this is just like another part of the story and it will work out or we'll learn, but like we'll get through it. You always get through it. And
Right.
so do you want to get through it like with haste and anger and like,
That's a
or do you want to
choice.
get through it with like grace and compassion and like, okay, I've learned a lesson now and now I can like move on.
Yep.
So
How many generations do you think that phrase has been passed
I
down? We talked about
know,
like
I wonder.
the things that you passed down to your children, like
Right.
the
Yeah,
breathing and
yeah,
all the
yeah.
these things. What can I do to
Yeah.
support you? Like that's what you passed down to your kids. Like
Yes.
that's from your grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
How far back do you think that quote goes? Now it's in you, and I have a feeling you've maybe said that to your children once or
yes,
twice.
that and
That's
delayed
probably ingrained.
gratification.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Another word
That's
for
a big
patience.
one. Yeah.
Well, and
When I don't get what I want, I'm like, oh, it's just delayed gratification. Thanks, Grandma Shirley.
One like my post it has everything is going to be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end.
Yeah.
So it's the same.
So you have the same quote.
Yep. Yep.
See?
But like I got a bunch of them on post-it notes, but
How do you know you just pick the one? You're like,
I just love-
this is the one today that I'm feeling.
no, I just read them all every day. It's like
This one calls to me.
sometimes it floods,
Yeah.
but but there are certain ones that just
Then you got
kind
an
of like
arsenal back there. So as
That's right.
soon as like
Yeah, like-
someone does
like,
something,
you're like, oh yeah, it's this
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
All right. Yeah.
I just imagine this like Rolodex of post-it notes.
Oh yeah. Yep.
There it is.
But
There's
at the
my
end of the
card.
day, it's just like unconditional acceptance for whatever happens.
Mm-hmm.
That's hard. That's hard as shit to live by. But I also know that like it's the way to be able to walk through dignity and grace through like any situation.
Mm-hmm.
But it's for control freaks, it's not really
Yes.
easy to be like,
Yes. We have to surrender.
yeah,
Surrender to the moment.
Yeah.
anxiety
The
issues
tough-
helps with that.
and the tough part about that is being able to let go of control of the outcome.
Yes.
Because you're
Attachment. That
Yeah.
is like that non-attachment. So it's a parigraha, letting go, and the yamas and niyamas. If you want a good book to read, if we're just can plug
Yeah, what is it?
something, the yamas and niyamas. I say it's like the 10 commandments of life, but it's not like religious affiliated, right?
Yep.
It's just like be a good human.
Yep.
Like the first one is ahimsa. So you try to go through life non-harming, right? And not just to others and not like physical harm, but like in our words, the things that we say and how we act. And most importantly, like what are the things that you're saying to yourself? How can you be non-harming to yourself? And then saya is your truth. Like, do you speak your truth, but in a kind way, right? Like, is it necessary? Is it timely? Like all those things. So a parigraha is letting go, non-attachment. And that is the biggest thing is we attach ourselves to this outcome, good or bad, whatever it may be. And then that's why we end up having those feelings where it's like if we could instead. So I was thinking about, I applied to be on a reality show, a game show. Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course.
A
It's
reality,
a game show,
Like
not
Family
a reality
Feud?
TV.
Like
It's
Survivor?
called The Wall.
Okay.
So I sent in the application
like
when I was
Wipeout?
drinking. No, The Wall, like where they drop balls and you can make lots of money.
Oh, yeah, you have to like pick.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. So I like, see, it sounded fun, right? So of course I was
Yes.
at my in-laws one night and like having some drinks and I was like on my phone, like, I'm just gonna, they're accepting applicants. Yes. So I sent a really funny, like cute little thing, whatever. And I got a call back. And the lady's like, oh, we want you to send in videos. I was like, I've got this. I am going to be on this show. I was like attached to that outcome.
Oh, yeah.
And so then like I got my brother to Zoom with me and we did this whole thing like brother, sister. I made Aaron come. And like, if you know my husband, he's like very like mild. But he was on video like, yeah, doing the things. And I thought these videos where I was like, there's no way they wouldn't pick us, right? And in the process of submitting the videos, I had to remind myself, and I was teaching a yoga class the next day, and I was like, don't get attached to the outcome. Appreciate what this experience was. So,
And then you were like, wait a minute.
Yes.
Mirror. This one's for me.
so that was my whole, it was like, oh, this was actually just really fun and a way for me to connect with my brother. And like part of the application is you have to say good things about the other person. So it was kind of cool to like learn some new things about my brother and like for my spouse and I to say nice things about each other, right? Like
What a great
it was just like,
exercise.
yeah, it was fun.
Try
and then
that.
it was like another story to tell.
Yeah.
I never got a call back. Nothing.
Right, but like what you needed in that
wall
moment might have
people,
been
if
that.
you want some good, we got you. But yeah, anyway, so it's just a letting go. And then it's a fun experience. And it actually didn't matter that I didn't get a call back, right? I kind of like submitted it and then forgot about it because I wasn't attached to being on the show anymore. I just like, that was a fun experience. And if it ends there, great. If not, then we have more to the story. If not, now I get to have my videos that I recorded that I think are still really good.
Any other shows that you're have any interest in being a part of?
Try to be on?
Like
that's a
Survivor
good-
or
This is
No,
good.
no, survive. I don't want to survive anywhere. I wouldn't.
I'm not surviving.
I don't know how much I feel like the Survivor one is like
Is that still?
Do you
I
know
don't even
which one I would
that's
want to
still
be
a thing.
on?
alone.
Like, no. Well, I do
Naked and
watch that,
Afraid?
but again, I went,
No?
no, like the mole. Where you got to figure out who's like the shitty person in the group that's like trying to like
that
sabotage
is right up your
everybody.
alley.
I know.
What
See,
undercover
I'm like,
boss? I could see.
yes,
do that.
yes, I could definitely
you
do
would-
undercover boss for sure. Something like that. Something where it's like you got to like think and be real smart on this show.
Because you don't
So
have to
not-
think in Survivor.
Not
Well, I
the
mean,
wall.
I should think. I don't want anything like physically demanding.
Not the wall. then.
Although I
Okay,
guess
gotcha.
on the mole they do lots of physical activities. I can handle that.
Have you seen
Yeah.
that? The only reason I
What?
actually
Yeah,
have
I'm going to ask
television-
you next.
The
So
only reason I have television right now because I usually get a TV subscription for the football season.
When you
Yeah.
say television, you mean
Like
cable?
oh no, like Hulu
Sling?
or something that has
so
okay.
live
Yeah.
live TV.
Yeah.
live TV.
I feel like you're trying to
Cable.
justify having. You can have television whenever you want. It doesn't
Yeah,
have to
but
be just for football.
There's
like it's
I
fine.
find no purpose for it outside. Like I'm not like
We can
oh
judge
now
them
we
later.
have it for the 3 months we can watch. We don't do that. But
because you have TikTok, so you just watch that the whole time.
Because I just get lost in TikTok. That
Oh
does
my
not
gosh.
fly in my household. Let me tell you that. What are you doing over there? I don't even know.
I don't know.
It's the algorithm.
But
It's
you know
not
what,
me.
though? You might get some good ideas from it.
That's
so it's
true.
not all bad
Creativity
because it
is
is
for
like
you.
I have to
inspiring
set
sometimes.
massive parameters for myself because
Yeah.
5-minute thing.
Yeah.
Just 5 more
Or
minutes
like
at
where
7:02.
we'll
I'm
ask
done.
You, are you
Shit,
sure
at
you
7:30.
want to do this?
Right.
my
I have to be
Facebook
intentional.
kind of
Even
teaching
like, you're doing
Yeah.
like the no drink thing, and it's like I do that too. And then when I do get back on to whatever my obsession is, it's like I have to be extremely
Addictive
intentional.
personality.
Yep. But I think that just comes from that insane like pull toward of that zest for life or whatever it is,
Yeah.
and diving in. But I started kind of getting back on social media just because it's what helped build our business. I think it can help take our business to the next level again.
Back to the roots.
Yeah, I mean that's but it's like a slippery slope because yes, it's really you get a lot of creative ideas, but also you get like it's slippery.
Yeah.
Boundaries.
You were
Sorry,
sharing,
I
and
was
we
just
just
thinking
I
we
was-
totally.
I was really
This is like a clear example of what happens.
The challenging part was I was really trying to like focus on what you were saying and focus on what you were saying and then try to remember what it was that I was going to say. I'm like,
So you're
hold
saying,
on to
all
that
right.
thought.
So,
Yeah,
but
so
here's
you
here's
have
another
Hulu.
skill set. Here's another skill set that this has. That so you were talking about having your live TV and
Yes.
how you,
Yes.
And Hulu
So there,
for football.
we were talking about game shows.
Yes.
yeah,
There's some new show out there, and the only reason I know this is because there's apparently
football season.
And I wanna
commercials
be
are a
on
thing.
it.
It's still I don't
I'm very
understand it.
competitive.
But there where B and C celebrities like Cam Newton, former NFL football player, and
Yeah.
other people I've never heard of before, do like these extreme like Navy SEAL challenges. Like they jump off of boats and try to catch onto a
Are
helicopter.
they still in shape from when they were like an athlete? Or?
I mean, probably
more
they're
fun
probably
if they
doing
were.
yoga and
Yeah.
Pilates and stuff like that. I
do love
Then
me some
yes.
Pilates.
They appear like they're in shape, but I was
Okay.
just watching the preview for that, and I was like, man, I'd really like to. No, that just doesn't
Just
call to me.
Nope.
seeing-
So if it was,
Doesn't
if you had to
speak
pick
to
one,
you.
what would it be?
I don't know. I just if we had a show, I think it would be this podcast would have its own time slot.
Game show?
It would. It would be its own game show.
It
Who
could
can
be like how
survive?
fast can you build a Jeep?
That's
Like,
probably.
do you remember, like, those shows,
Arena.
like, with the counting cars? What are all,
Yeah.
any of those shows, I always love.
I feel like some of that's
those
that's bullshit though, right?
It
'Cause
is
there's
a
always
lot
like-
of it's bullshit.
You see, like, because you watch a show and there's been plenty
Well,
of them.
right,
and you're like,
yeah.
you see the beginning of the show and it's the vehicles coming into the shop, and you're like, the owner comes out and he's, we just found this in the back, and then Joe's gonna buy it, and then by the end of the half-hour show, which is 22 minutes of
done.
television
Yeah.
footage, it's done.
Right.
And it makes it look like this happened over the course of a
It's
week.
actually taken 10 years.
Well, and
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like, I wouldn't
Like, my
even
dad's
want.
Corvair still is not.
I wouldn't even want. So like, and since we're talking about going back to the roots and some of this stuff, so back in 2016, we had the Discovery Network here. We were greenlit for a Tuesday night time slot right after Diesel Brothers. They were all pumped. We were the next Diesel Brothers. Really, really exciting. And then all kinds of things shifted. It did not work out, but we were again. It's like a perspective. It allowed us to be able to form and open our marketing firm, and it was really great to kind of chase that. And one thing that I learned in that is that excitement an attachment to I'm going to be on TV and it's going to be great. And everybody I was telling was like, oh my gosh, that's exciting, and you're going to be TV stars, and like
You'll be famous.
you start telling people that
A
stuff,
C celebrity.
and you're right, exactly, like F,
Signing autographs at some show in
right,
Oklahoma
yeah.
on a Tuesday.
And you just get like, you just get fired up about it. And then when it didn't happen at first, I was like, well, but then I think about like what we've been able to do with our talents, and we impacted a lot of people over the years with that. But, and we didn't have to challenge our integrity at all.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that I know, like that's a big struggle in some of those reality TV shows because the producer is making the calls on what the show is going to be about based on the Nielsen ratings. Whereas thankfully the advent of social media has given us a different avenue. And we played around with it for a long time. We wanted to have a mix between some of those counting car shows, but it wasn't realistic for us to put the high stress on the team to be able to like, okay, well, we have 6 weeks to build this car. We do that enough on our own.
Yeah.
And our
And make sure
deadlines.
it's quality
You
too.
don't-
Yeah.
and you
Because
don't want to
sometimes,
really
like
be here.
some of those reality shows, the quality then is terrible. It's
Yeah.
like, great, you did this real fast. You slapped it
Yeah,
together
Pimp My
in
Ride. I remember
48
that.
hours.
Yeah. All
Like,
those,
sweet.
you
Like
find
all
those
those
cars
cars.
on eBay
Yeah.
for like $12.
And I think to your point about like that attachment, so it's like you got this idea in your head of where you wanted to be, and it sounded fun and glamorous. And then what happens is we keep trying to chase that high,
Right.
not recognizing that like the path we started out on is maybe not the path that we need to end up on, but we had to start out on that path to be able to get over here because it's not a straight line,
Exactly.
right? So it's
And
like we
there's-
say yes, and then it's like, well, let's take a hard right.
Right.
And there's
Or left.
I don't want to say angst isn't the right word, but you see others in the same sphere that build
Right.
cars that had that opportunity, that fell to the crux of what the director said or what the producer said, and this is how it's going to look and this is how it's going to run. Didn't care about integrity, didn't care about what the perception was or how the crew was perceived. You've seen them mostly because of timing. Because at one point, network television was like this is a big thing, but you've seen them be successful.
Yep.
You've seen the money come in. You've seen the success. You've seen the partnerships. You've seen them be able to take.
Depends how you define success.
Well,
Exactly.
but I think you look at success from the stand back look of it is like, well, if you want to be on TV, do you want to be on TV because you want to showcase your product? Do you want to be on TV because you want to be famous? Do you want to make
Yeah,
money?
what's your
all,
why?
all of the above. But you've seen people that have had that success continue to make whatever success is in their mind. Maybe it's a lot of money, the ability to still be able to utilize social media outside of the TV realm. And then let's say you meet one of them.
Right. You're like,
You
man,
have met one of them and you're like, this guy's an asshole.
absolute
And
super
it's
dick.
just
when our
miserable.
heroes become human.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you
Well,
knew exactly who I was
yeah.
talking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and because it isn't even necessarily like I get the whole like starstruck, and then it's like, but even if you don't put them on a pedestal and you
Yeah.
realize that person like just doesn't have the integrity that maybe you hoped, maybe you
Yeah.
didn't. I mean, I'm sure that there's
Yeah.
some of that, but and then you're like, yeah, and then you can put yourself in that position. Especially for me, like I was so close to like living in that life, and I know me, I would have committed because I committed to making this project work. I'm going to do whatever needs to be done to make it work. So like, and that might be at the like expense of my core values, and like that, and now like again, like slowing down, taking another look, getting strangled a few times on the mats. Like allow me like, wait a minute, I can create enough space to be able to make sure that I don't have to wonder how I'm going to sleep at night because that goes against what I believe.
But would you rather have that or your own energy drink? I mean, let's just,
Yeah. Well, because you can keep kicking the can down the road with that energy
yeah.
drink.
There you
But it'll all catch up to you at some point. Right. And what's, we've met some people. And I explored a possibility yesterday to bring back that idea to have a YouTube TV series type thing on the shop, completely run by us. That's more of a The Office meets counting cars.
Oh, fun.
So it's
Like
more,
the reality of it.
Exactly.
Like here's the glamour of it, but then here's what actually happens.
exactly,
Right?
and like here's the stress, here's the this,
like you
here's
see the
that.
Instagram stuff and the Instagram homes and all that, but then there's like the reality of like shit's actually everywhere, and I have 10 different things happening on my island.
and I don't
can
know how
barely
this is
keep
going to
my-
work.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's going to
Yeah.
work. Because I think that what we've found in all of our social media is the last thing I want to do is put something out there that does not feel attainable. And it like our core values and our groundwork for Legends marketing is that you need to be relatable. If you're relatable, it will be successful. And so by showing like, oh, look how great this is. Well, this is what went into it. If anybody's wondering, because it's that whole iceberg mentality of like success is the tip of the iceberg, but nobody sees what's going on underneath.
right.
Yeah.
So
Except the Titanic.
I'm excited for that. Well, that one saw it.
Too soon?
I don't know.
Come on,
It's
people.
been
Get
I think
get
it's
over
I
it.
saw it too late.
Dead ahead. Dead ahead indeed.
Ooh, that was a good one.
I think that was that third shot of espresso.
That was?
That one
Yeah,
in
I'm
there.
like, hey, can we make another? We need
Yeah.
another assistant
Remember
on this
I
show.
said the jokes I
to
wouldn't
go get us
necessarily
more
get,
coffee.
but there we go. I got one.
Well, that's what's
Yeah.
getting it. That was good.
Some of the other things,
Oh man.
when I
Yeah.
re-listen to this, I'm like, oh, that's what I was laughing at.
I can't wait for that moment. But the social media does provide those kind of avenues to be able to. Everybody has a chance to tell their own story. It's what makes people famous. You have an opportunity to tell your story, be honest with it. But there's also, we talked about lenses. There's a lot of rose-colored glasses that go. I mean, we'll call them Instagram filters per se, or Reels remixes. And I think everybody's guilty of it. But you kind of get to see the non-reality of reality. Yeah, like here's 30 seconds of a 24-hour day that really shows that my life is really fucking great, and you should be envious of it. And again, sometimes it can be used for like self-inspiration or accountability. I think those things are very important. But sometimes you're like,
Well, people only really post like the top 3% of their life, right?
Yeah, right.
And
nobody posts the bullshit.
No, like I'm not gonna post you a picture of like after I just got done screaming at my children and it was like my worst day ever. Like who?
Mascara's
people
running.
might want to say, no, I have fake lashes. Not worry about that shit. But
so you didn't take a picture of your son when he had his tongue on the thing? Like this is going on the gram. Sorry,
but what
bud.
I was thinking about is like I remember the first time that it kind of slapped. So you talk about like. You hear these things over and over and over again, but until like it just is like that one time where it's like, oh my God, that's it. Yes. I remember I was like doom scrolling back in the day, even probably now sometimes. But I was scrolling.
Just
and
Instagram instead of TikTok.
Yes. And I had just had like a really like heartfelt conversation with a friend who's going through a super challenging time. Right. And then I see on Facebook and it's like the Facebook post and the conversation. Yeah. Could not have been further from like what was happening, and I was like, oh, like, and I know we already know that, but then like to like in that, and I think because it was like almost real time, it was like whoosh, like conversation post, like what, and then I was like, oh yeah, so now it's like when I still doom scroll sometimes, I'm like, oh, this is just that teeny tiny little bit, like, and I even think when I'm gonna post, like, what am I putting up there, So.
Well, and that's that intention. Or why am I doing it, right? Am I doing this for external validation? Yes. Or am I doing this because... and I struggle with that. And like, especially like coming back and like starting to dabble a little bit. And it's been like 6 days. So, but like
so
trying to...
you gotta keep this going.
Yeah.
You gotta like
and I'm like... Oh,
motivation to start, but determination to finish. Discipline to finish.
Well, because I like what am I doing this for? Am I, and I think that there's always going to be a mix of reasons, and you're going to find the positive and negative in all of your reasoning for any of your actions, but at some point you need to kind of commit to something.
I really try.
And believe behind it that you're doing it for the reasons that you believe to be true.
Yeah. I think that's where like yoga for me is when I come to social media and I post, and probably people who follow me, all 350 of them on Instagram, not very many. I'm like a tiny little nugget.
We're followers.
But when I post, it is typically something that I hope will be inspirational to others because it's maybe something that I'm feeling. So it's like a quote, or like if I did something fun, it's like, hey, I can do this, you can do it too. Right? And I find that when I like post under that avenue, then when I'm looking at stuff, that's almost the lens that I'm looking at it now. And that's like, okay, what are things that are inspirational now? Oh, someone did this, I can do it too. Like, it's not from a place of, versus if I'm posting like, oh, I'm going to show off this part of my life, then when I look at it, I'm looking at it like, oh, they're look at all the things they're doing, I'm not doing. So it's been a really interesting shift for me as I'm looking at it, and I don't necessarily leave the doom scrolling like feeling maybe as depressed as I used to, because it's like, oh, I've now take 15 new things that I'm going to try or bake, or
well, I think that's the biggest thing. It's so overwhelming that you're like, man, information overload. And then you feel like a piece of shit if you can't accomplish all these things that you just like got downloaded to your brain in the last 15 minutes. Yeah. So that's why it's just like, whoa, I'm out of it.
As scary as it is, because it's become part of our ethos, is your algorithm is your doing.
Yeah.
You're right.
Your reality is like, I don't understand why I'm getting fed this stuff. Yeah, you do.
Well, what you doing?
Like, why is all this negative stuff? Like, if you start,
I guess that makes sense. I get all the inspirational quotes. Right? Like, these are so great. I love life.
That's just it. It's if you're you gravitate towards it. I mean, it's AI, man. It's going to ruin the world. But if you're stopping and scrolling on,
It'll
a David
inspire
Goggins
the world.
Inspire. I don't know. We
It
just
certainly
watched.
can. It just
What do we watch last
reframing.
AI is just a reflection of what's already out there.
Dude, we watched what's the new Megan Fox movie that's on Netflix where she's
I didn't know she's in a new movie.
yeah, like she's it's
How
set
did
in
I
the
not know
future.
this?
thinking, of course, I
MGK was
would know
not in
that.
it. I don't know. It's the future, but all the AI is like real life robots. So this guy hires his wife is going through some things medically, and so he's like trying to keep his job as a foreman on this construction site and manages 2 kids. He's got a little baby, and his wife's in the hospital. So the new thing is called Sparks. And Megan Fox is a Spark, who is like
Doesn't seem
100% AI. Right? It is. I mean, if you're going to design an AI robot, then real life, you go
Sure.
like Megan Fox circa Transformers in 2002. Whatever. You do you. But she becomes like this AI entity that comes into the home, takes care of the kids, cleans the house, does all, and is
Can
it's
I find
AI. It's a
that?
robot. It has no emotional tie until she gets him to reset her. And now she starts to rewrite all of her own programming to be able to.
Then she starts to think on her own.
She starts to
God.
think on her own,
that's the
have
problem.
emotions.
Shoot.
Sadly, as soon as we started watching it, I
Are you
was
gonna
like,
ruin this for people?
no, I
do.
said,
Okay.
I will predict. It just started. We saw the preview and we just started it. I'm like, I will give you the three ways this is going to end, and all
Yeah.
3 of those things hit, and
Of
you can just
course.
guess what they were. Like, yeah, he did
Yeah.
that. Yep, she did that, and yes, that's how it ended.
Yes.
I was
Yep.
like, but it's
Well, now I can predict the ending. That's
See?
fine. I wasn't gonna watch it anyway.
Yeah, me neither till later.
I wasn't going to want much. Yeah, I'll give you the.
Maybe we'll watch
time
it on a
skip.
road trip.
Watch it as we're driving down the road.
But I think that
to
that-
Orlando. But that's the AI is so ingrained in us that what you see is
I know,
what
we
you
gotta get you
literally get. So when you follow Gary Brecka or you follow inspirational quotes or you follow David Goggins,
You
and
are what you eat.
Yeah, it's the same. If you
Yep.
know end up
And I
on
guess you're
Sydney
eating all
Sweeney
meat,
videos,
So I guess you're gonna.
Well, it'll just continue to support whatever ideology
Yeah.
that you have.
And it
the
listens.
problem is that if your ideology switches, it doesn't
Yeah.
always catch up. So it can also help keep you stuck. And I think
Start new
that's
searches.
I think that's where you have to be aware of that. But that's again where the awareness is like, and that's what I've found in some of my like when I get into the scrolling and I start feeling like this isn't what I want, and then I see what I'm looking. I'm like, this is something I'm trying to move away from.
Yeah.
right? But I feel like it's intuitive.
Did you hear that?
To you, it's, also wait till you see your Instagram
Yeah,
reels
right.
after you get done with this.
Can you imagine
But
what's gonna pop up?
I feel like it's getting to a point where it also ties into
Megan
like
Fox.
In a really
where
cool
it ties
car.
into the people that are in your life. So Phil and I started doing the carnivore diet. We talked about it, I think, before the first of the year. Like, hey, we need to do something. Like, we were coming off the holidays and a bunch of bullshit. So we were just like, let's just have something, and then we can kind of have this accountability thing. My feed, TikTok and Instagram,
Yep.
all of it. I don't know that I had. Maybe subconsciously I'd stopped and like, oh, somebody's talking about the carnivore diet. Joe Rogan's talking about the carnivore diet. But now, like, every third scroll is like people doing the carnivore diet and like recipes, and I'm like, dude, I just made
And then we're like,
fried
it's the universe.
cheese.
The universe is
Yes,
telling me that
definitely.
I need
Right,
to
yeah,
do this.
exactly.
No, it's not the universe. It's you and all the things you're clicking on. That's what it
the
is.
AI
Right.
overlords.
Yes.
They're just- yeah.
It's not coincidence.
Yep,
It is
well,
not
right.
your inner tuition.
Oh, I was just on ChatGPT
algorithm.
looking for carnivore recipes. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, I'm getting carnivore recipes on
Shock.
TikTok. What do you mean they're not talking to each other?
Yes.
The overlords are all talking to one another. It's crazy. It's wild.
When I wanted to jump in, and I know we've got to wrap this up, I was really hoping to kind of jump into, I met you as a yogi,
Yes.
but then our business
I can
relationship,
come back.
I think we're going to have
Part
to,
two.
because I'd like to talk about your involvement with the Small Business Development Center and what you're able to do for local businesses, because I know firsthand it's remarkable.
Secondhand.
Well, you were really firsthand.
I
That's
was.
true.
I
And
was-
then he was
yeah.
secondhand.
And then I was like,
Yeah.
she's not going anywhere.
But the same route. The same route. It was yogi.
yeah.
I think my first class was with you, and now every time I have to take a class and you're not teaching it, I'm like,
Well, thank
oh,
you.
convenient time. I don't care. I'll make my life completely inconvenient so I can go to a Becca class. But then
Aw,
it did become, friendship, relationship, and then you're like, oh yeah, I do this thing.
Yeah, just
and I
on
was
the
like,
side,
we're in the
for
middle of
fun.
doing this thing, and I'm like, Phil, she's doing this thing. We probably should get her in to do this thing. And then I think we spread that around to 5 or 6 different people just because
Yep.
the value of that information. And you talked about being a business owner and trying to figure it. You do it because you're passionate about it.
Not
Yeah.
because you
Not
understand
because
the
you're like,
business world.
I get it.
understand spreadsheets,
Not
therefore
because you're
I should
freaking
start a
sheets.
business.
Ha, get it? Boom, boom.
Yeah.
How did we
You
not
were
get
really
You
hoping
add
to
that
pull that
little
out.
in, Tyler.
We add that in post production, just a couple of in there.
Well,
But no,
so
do
for the
great
next
things.
one, you're going to have to make sure you bring that mug.
I will.
Your
That's
freaking
how we
sheets
can
mug.
start it. You can like play your music, zooming in on the
Oh,
mug.
I love it.
Okay.
And we'll decide if it's another coffee podcast or if we're leaning into some.
Or maybe you'll get a
some real-
sponsor.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that'd be
Microsoft Excel.
Yeah.
If you're listening,
Do you have a coffee shop somewhere?
we do.
Yep.
I think they
They're
would
right
love to
down
be
the
a part of
road.
this. Appreciate the
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take that, EC.
rush that
Southside.
I'm going to get later. Becca, thanks for jumping on.
Yeah,
being a
this
part
was
of
fun.
Whatever we talked
Was
about.
it what you
was great.
expected?
It was better than
You
I
were super
expected.
nervous.
I shouldn't have had expectations.
See?
I should have just like non-attachment.
Don't shit on yourself.
I
That's what my
know.
therapist always says. Don't shit on yourself.
No,
Don't
this
come
is
into
great.
this.
Thank you.
No, thanks for having us. Awesome.
yeah.
Again, we are on all the social medias now. With not all, we're not on the Facebook yet. Maybe we will be now that
Or the
Zucks is
Lemonade.
loosening
Are you
the
in the
reins over there.
Lemonade yet?
We are on Lemonade.
Okay, perfect.
So follow us on Lemonade, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube at Between Two Wrenches.
We'll
do it again.
I'm
gonna use-
got that shit doing. Then she took that thing off and bring it around. Going at it till I'm on. Put that 90 in a hole. I'm beating it down. I'm back in that bag again. Whoa, whoa. Oh, say less. I'm back in that bag again. Yeah, yeah. Oh, say less. I'm back in that. Yeah. What you doing? Yeah, yeah. I'm back in that. Hey, where you going? Hey, hey. Back in that bag again. To bring me around your friends.